I do laugh at hearing her call Trump, he was a gentleman in every respect. Like, even Trump's friends don't think he's a gentleman. Like, even Trump wouldn't describe himself as a gentleman, I don't think.
Hi, everyone. This is Pivot from New York Magazine and the Vox Media Podcast Network. I'm Kara Swisher, and welcome back to
Scott-Free August.
I never get tired of that. It's the final week of Scott-Free August, though. He is coming back soon. He's been texting me lately, so we know he's getting a little jumpy on his vacation in his expensive house, wherever it happens to be. But I have yet another amazing co-host. This has been an astonishing month. Tim Miller, welcome to Pivot.
Hey, Kara, I've just been kind of warming up some takes about narcissism and the crisis of young men and Cialis and stuff to help people, kind of transition back into Scott September.
Okay, go for it. Do you have anything?
Yeah, well, no, I think it's important to encourage older men to use Cialis and encourage younger men to get out there in the world and find women to sleep with, or men, whatever, because we don't want incels, and I think it leads to other problems in society. And I think Scott's really good on this point.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, thank you. You are also the host of the Bulwark podcast, where you do a great job, and former GOP strategist. I cannot believe that at this point. Anyway, welcome.
It's been a decade.
So talk about your podcast a little bit, and what's the most interesting conversation you've had on there recently?
Oh boy, ever or recently?
Whatever is fine.
Look, the podcast, it's a daily podcast, which is a bit of a grind. So I feel this obligation to be on the news and get in the news, while at the same time, if it's fucking Trump is awful porn every day, I'm going to kill myself. And I think that the listeners will too. And so you have to kind of have a balance between that. So I don't know. I mean, for example, on the Trump porn one, I loved my John Lovett conversation recently because I made him cry. I think mine's the only podcast he's cried on. So if people want to get in touch with their feelings, you can listen to two gay men who hide our feelings underneath sarcasm, try to expand. I had your boy J. Cal on a couple weeks ago. I thought that was interesting, just because
my boy?
It's a gag. It's a gag.
Okay, good.
I don't know if you feel this way.
Person.
It's hard. I really want to, in the second Trump term, have people on who are less radicalized against him than me, just to kind of hash it out. It's important to hear the other perspectives. The problem is most Trump supporters are full of shit. And so it's hard, and I don't want anybody on the podcast that's full of shit. I know you guys do this too. I want only people on who are going to say what they really think. And so I can't have somebody on who will say one thing on the podcast in the green room and be like, he really's gone too far on this thing. That doesn't work.
Right.
And so Jake Cal,
which they do. Just for people who don't know, they'll come up to you in a green room and be like, I agree with you. And you're like, you fucking asshole.
Exactly.
That's when I truly hate them. Jason's in it. This is Jason Calacanis,
Yeah,
right?
Jason Calacanis is all in podcast. He at least will say when he disagrees with Trump, which I think he's at least telling the truth to me. I don't know. No?
He's an interesting. I've known him for 30, 40 years now. When he was a media person, he ran a bunch of tech stuff, and he's kind of a jazz hands kind of fella like that. I don't know how else to put it. He's really loathsome to Scott for reasons undetermined, probably jealousy. But one of the things, we used to be friends. I would say I stayed at his house and stuff like that, and his need to suck up to power is really quite distasteful to me. And he's sort of like the clown to Elon or whatever that group of people he's on the podcast with all in. I feel bad because I thought he was very clever and actually one of the early media entrepreneurs, and a really enthusiastic person. But one of the things that I always had a problem in our relationship was that he couldn't do hard things. He was a very big proponent of Travis Kalanick until everybody turned on Travis Kalanick, and then he was against Travis Kalanick, and then when he came back, he was for. I'm like, do you have any lasting values of anything? Yeah. But that's what bothers me.
Well, I thought that was it's interesting you say that, because one of the interesting things about the interview was because that's his nature, he was totally candid about the fact, one of the things that I try to get to, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is why did all of these billionaires become putty in Trump's hands? I get that in some cases they want access, it's about power, it's about money. If Trump's going to act like an authoritarian, they need to do it. But in other cases they didn't really need to, and they did it anyway. And why? And he's just blunt about the fact that Trump responds to their phone calls. Biden never did. Their feelings, their little fifis were hurt that Elon wasn't invited to some summit.
Right.
And so I thought that was like interesting just how blunt he was about that. That like sucking up to power was like the reason why these guys do it. Like basically, and that's it. It's no deeper than that.
Which he is very good at, let me just say. And again, I like Jason because I feel bad we don't speak now. And because he won't speak to me because they're mad at me. And I'm like, don't you have any fucking balls, Jason? You know, we had a pretty good relationship. And he won't because he's like, because it's sort of like the court jester in a lot of ways to those people. I think, he doesn't have as much money as they do. He has a lot of money, but not like them. And so I think he's often wanted to monetize that podcast better than they do. And it's degenerated into, he used to run a bunch of other startup events that I really liked, actually. I thought they were very clever. They were sort of, again, jazz hands a lot. But I just feel like he just has made a trade that I don't love. And I wish he would call me because I'm like, it's fine to argue, Jason. But now even he's gotten hurt. Like, you said something and hurt me. I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
call Kara, Jason. Now I feel bad that I mentioned that. You put me on the spot about recent interviews. I'm like, I mentioned the Jason one. I was like, I should have mentioned somebody who would have, not triggered you.
But he's really smart and insightful. And you know what I love? I love him to be Truman fucking Capote and write a book when it's all over, turning on all of them. I would love that because I bet he has some really good insights.
Anybody to turn on Chamath, I'm for. So I sign up for that too. But
that's another relationship.
I should have mentioned E. Jean Carroll. That was my favorite interview recently because I was worried. Great. You never know. I didn't actually know her. I'd never met her. She is such a spitfire.
Salty bitch, isn't she?
Oh my God!
The
podcast started with her listing all the people that she had sex with because she included that in her book. It's the best list I've ever heard. I forget what it's like. 6 people, but they're all famous. I'm like,
they are. She's a salty bitch, as they say. Kind of thing. Tell me, you do it daily? That's crazy. Daily.
Yeah. Well, now you've revealed yourself as not a daily listener, which is fine. My feelings aren't hurt. It's a lot of material.
I listen. You know where I listen to it? I listen to it on social media. Like I listen to pieces and pieces.
Yeah, great.
I definitely listen to it every day because I go through my feeds.
Yeah, that's how people consume stuff now. Yeah, no, it's every day. I think it's important. Like, look, it's important for people to be in a rhythm. You guys have a rhythm. You're still doing it, Scott, for you. I guess like this was when I took it over, I called some of my sports podcast buddies who do like Pardon My Take, some of the successful ones, the guy did the podcast with JJ Redick. And I asked them like, what's the deal? What's like your main advice? And their main advice was consistency, that the listeners know that you're going to be there. If something happens, you know what I mean? And so I kind of took that to heart and it's on every day.
One of the things that people are with media is you've got to be promiscuous in a way that, in their ear and in their head, because and in genuine ways. It's a very different than a TV appearance, which you're also on. Right. Because it's you, like, this is my take, and they get to trust you. And that's the critical part of having a daily relationship. One thing you said I want to poke on, this Trump porn stuff. Talk about that, like that idea is you don't want to just be endlessly reacting to this.
Yeah, it's tough. I made
long dong silver.
Yeah, short dong silver. My pledge to myself after he won was like, I'm only going to get mad about what I'm mad about. And there's going to be a lot to be mad about, but I'm not going to, like, if he does something that is like, that I know I could do a little bit on, that would be fake or fun. I'm not going to do that because like, A, life's too short. B, it kind of helps him, I think, frankly, because oftentimes those topics are things that he wants to be out there. And I just don't think it does people that are tuning in any service, to do that. So that's my thing. It's hard. Like, look, there's so many indignities every day. And so like there's sometimes an obligation to bring up stuff that I feel like that's not getting enough attention that's in the news, right? But if it just becomes, one day it's like, oh, well, Trump did this thing that's horrible. The next thing he did this other thing that's horrible. The next thing he did this other thing that's horrible. And the frequency isn't any different, right? If it's the same frequency the whole time, then, everybody, you become numb to it. And
you do.
So
you get
like,
acclimated.
Yeah. So I think it's important for everybody. And I don't even really mean this in a political sense, like it's important politically. I do think it's important for the Democrats to figure out ways to keep people from becoming numb to it. But I just mean in like now that I'm a former Republican, I've switched sides. I can use lib terms like this now. I mean it like in a self-care way. Like, don't become numb to this and just have it be like, oh, every day I just wake up and I get my fix of how awful it is.
Well, I think the problem is Trump is oxygen, right? At this moment, he's everywhere. There's nothing. Climate change, you could do a thing. Vaccines, you could do a thing. Sure. Like all kinds of things. And it's hard when you're talking about other things not to be aware of it, because it's like nothing matters except this. And that's what he's done really effectively. But let's see what you get really mad about. We've got a lot to get to today, including what Ghislaine Maxwell is saying about Trump. All good things. What a surprise. And Jeffrey Epstein. And MAGA is melting down over the stupid Cracker Barrel logo. But I do think that's a much more interesting story than just the logo, which is interesting. But first, President Trump is threatening to send National Guard troops to Chicago, New York, and Baltimore as part of his effort to crack down on crime. The Pentagon has been planning a military deployment in Chicago for weeks now, according to the Washington Post. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is accusing Trump of trying to, quote, manufacture a crisis. While over in Maryland, Governor Wes Moore set Trump off after inviting him to walk the streets of Baltimore. He offered a golf cart, by the way. Meanwhile, Guard troops are now carrying weapons on the streets of D.C. A Pete Hegseth directive makes me feel more unsafe as a D.C. resident. A CNN analysis of government data found a moderate drop in reported crime in D.C. during the first week of Trump's takeover, a far larger surge in the arrest of immigrants. Bill Maher has been talking about a slow-moving coup for a while now. In his latest episode, he laid out how Trump's recent actions suggest a coup may already be underway. It's a little long, but let's listen.
First, create a masked police force. Get people used to looking at that. Normalize snatching people off the street. Get them used to that. Normalize seeing the National Guard and the military on the street. Then start talking about crime in the capital, which is basically, has always been a fairly crime-ridden city. This is our nation's capital where elections are decided. And then because the crime is so bad, have other states start sending their troops, not just the National Guard there in D.C., but now at least 6 other states are sending their troops, which then Trump can then federalize. So you're having many states' troops on the ground there, and now they're under federal control. So you have in the Capitol a sort of permanent police presence.
So let's talk about this. I live here. I just took my daughter to the first day of public school today. The images couldn't be different. He's not a crime-ridden city. It's actually crime has been improving, as Democrats have been pointing out. There's crime in every city. There's a lot of crime in Houston, for example. There's a lot of crime in Alabama, in the cities, and wherever, it doesn't matter. Cities are like this. The second thing is this idea of people on the streets with guns. But there haven't been a lot of protests, and it's not because people think this is a good thing. I know this. I've talked to lots and lots of people. There's been a real icing of the workforce around ICE, people not coming to work. I just talked to someone who does some yard work for me. They can't come because of ICE. Because they're worried, their workers are worried, shut down of restaurants, et cetera. Talk a little bit about this, because, and then the threats to go to Chicago, to Baltimore, to New York, obviously, if Zohran Mamdani wins, for example.
Yeah, I like that Bill Maher. I don't, I felt like he was kind of lecturing people about he was mad that people were mad at him for going to visit Trump earlier. And it's like, this is why. He's like consolidating power, and it's important to just be clear about what it is, what he's trying to do. To me, like the thing about this that makes me the most upset is this combination of this kind of like state military theater, like with the actual, masked thugs hassling people that are here, sometimes illegally, sometimes not, and they went and they tear gassed that guy and like banged through his window in California, who was a U.S. citizen, George Redis. And so we'll kind of, he's now going to be able to sue, but like, this is what they're doing, right? Like they're acting with impunity, and the imagery of it like feels very un-American, and it's wrong. It's like it feels like it's in a banana republic. It's like we've got these new trucks now with Daddy Trump's name on it, and people are walking through the streets in the military uniforms, and then they're jumping out of unmarked cars with masks. Like, that's not how things should, that's not what this country should be about. People should be outraged and pushing back on it. And I think that, to Bill's point, like there's like this slow burn element of it, about like getting people used to it, that I think is really alarming. So we'll kind of see how this stuff continues on to Chicago and Maryland, and what else they decide to do, New York, maybe Baltimore, Chicago, but like he's not being subtle about it. And it's important, I think, at each lever. That's why I was happy to see what Wes Moore was doing this weekend, to like stop and say, like, this is no, like, we're going to push back on this now, because otherwise it just becomes a creep where he is able to do more and more.
These cities have an ability to do, although LA had mixed ability to do it. Now, the DC is a unique entity because it's also a federal center, and they don't have states' rights. There's no voting. Our representative happens to be out of it, actually, so you're not hearing from her. And people, it's a unique situation here. In the other states, it's going to be harder to try this, to try these numbers. But how do you, why aren't there more crackdowns, and especially these visual images of either people, being taken off the street, like on moped and things like that, or everyone has a story here. People are not, I don't quite know what to do, right? What do? You go yell at these people? Okay, that doesn't really have an effect. What is the response beside, in cities, I could see them pushing back on Trump.
Sure.
But not DC.
Yeah, no, the response from Democratic leaders is that they have to say no and not, we're going to work with you on this, right? Like, and that was, Bowser did that. Again, the DC thing is a little bit different. It's a little bit complicated, but when you get to these other cities, say no, and they have to have showdowns over states' rights. I mean, like, this was, like, J.D. Vance was on the shows over the weekend where he's talking about how this question of the red state National Guards coming to D.C. and how he's like, well, this is our system. We have states' rights. If the Republican governors want to send us troops to suck up to Trump, then, like, oh, well, we'll just do that. But that's not how it works. And there's other blue states and even purple states that have Democratic governors, right? You notice Philly isn't on the list. Josh Shapiro is there, Detroit, Gretchen Whitmer. Like, what eventually, you get a showdown in these places. But I think that's important. I think it's important. I think that the protesting is important in itself. It's important for people to call their leaders. Look, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, the pushback has been limp. And I get that. I feel that way as well. There are things I wish people were doing more of. But a part of that, I think, is because people feel like the pushback is not with point, because Trump has total power in D.C. and he's total power of Congress. But I point to the immigration thing in El Salvador as, like, a prime example of, like, how, like, pushing back on legal, political, and action in the streets grounds can slow them down. I mean, like, their initial plan was to send lots of people to that El Salvador prison. But they initially sent the 3 planes. There was immediately pushback, political, legal, people in the streets. And, the courts slowed them down. And what ended up happening, like, about a couple weeks ago now, the Venezuelans that they had sent there got sent back to Venezuela. No more planes have gone to El Salvador. No more people have been sent there. And, like, that is an example of resisting the administration that isn't maybe that satisfactory, because it's not like a win for Democrats. That's going
to try everything.
Yeah, but it slowed them down on that vertical. They got to do this. You got to do the same thing across all these other verticals.
The slowdown, the idea of slowdown. You've heard about the white ladies putting Mexican flags on their cars to get ICE to stop them.
I have not seen that. I like that.
People are making fun of it. It's like, why? It's wasting their time. And then the white ladies can chat away with them for the longest time. And, like, that's 6 hours. Like, I could talk to an ICE person for 6 hours and be difficult, but not arrestably difficult. You know what I mean? Like, kind of, why are you doing this? What's happening? What's your name? How you doing? Like, irritating in the way only white ladies can do it.
Well, you should irritate the local politicians. Look, my thing, like, so here in Louisiana, I live in New Orleans now. And so they sent 135 National Guard troops to D.C. to guard the Shake Shack or whatever. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, even Republicans in Louisiana should be calling their legislators and the governor and annoying them about this, saying, like, these are people with lives. Like, these are 135 people that have real jobs, that have families, they're in back to school. Like, they've been sent away from their kids to fucking sit outside the Georgetown Cupcake. Like, this is it's ridiculous. It's preposterous. And, like, and shining light on how ridiculous it is an important end.
A waste of money.
Itself.
A waste of money. Yeah. Is there any pluses for the Trump administration doing this? Like, crime is bad? Because people from outside cities all think crime is, like, the whole San Francisco narrative was so bullshit. There was problems. They're starting to really fix them. The city is very vibrant now. But it's just the cycle, right? The COVID cycle, the people moving out, et cetera, and but, they're aiming at homeless people, which is really interesting here in D.C. and elsewhere, as if that's really the actual problem.
I think it helps. I think that, there are people, like Matt Iglesias expresses this view that's, like, bad for Democrats anytime to be talking about crime and immigration, because if crime and immigration are in the news, that's good for Trump because those are issues that are good for Trump. And I take that point, right? Like, I think that you have to be clear-eyed about how the fact that there is a political benefit to what they're doing. They're good at picking enemies. Kilmar Garcia is not that particularly sympathetic as a person, right? Like John Bolton isn't particularly sympathetic as a person in different ways. But I think that like finding the most extreme examples and winning the fight on those grounds is better than ignoring it if you're a Democrat and moving on. And I mean, this happened in the first term on child separation. Like his numbers tanked on it and they had to backtrack on it. That was a worthwhile immigration fight. Is fighting over like border security worthwhile? Like, no, probably not. Like similarly on crime, like is pushing back on some of what they're doing on crime and cleaning up cities. It's not my cup of tea. Is pushing back on it worthwhile? Maybe not politically speaking. Activists or individuals can. But the Democrats should push back on masked guys jumping out of unmarked cars and tackling DoorDash drivers. Nobody's for that. And, I was listening over the weekend. Do you know Tim Dillon? He's like a comedian, MAGA comedian.
And Joe Rogan.
I was listening to Tim Dillon's show over the weekend, and he's like, if you're a libertarian-minded Republican guy, don't tread on me Republican guy, you can win those guys over with this. Like he's looking at this, he's going, what Trump is doing is everything Alex Jones warned about, is what he was saying. It's like, we're giving Palantir our information. We've got masked, we're militarizing the streets. We've got masked cops, going after people without due process. Like this is a big government security state. If framed correctly, I think Democrats could use it, right?
Yeah, as you know, every accusation is a confession with these people. So the Trump administration, let's move on to another thing they're grappling with. The Trump administration has released transcripts and audio from the DOJ's recent interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate and convicted sex offender. In an interview, Maxwell, who is seeking a pardon, praised Donald Trump, what a surprise, and also downplayed his involvement in Epstein's activities, what a surprise. Let's listen to what this heinous bitch said.
I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
So said the pedophile. So said the pedophile. Maxwell also denied the existence of a client list and dismissed a number of Epstein's theories and allegations. Also rather kind to Epstein. He can rot in hell. She did, however, say she doesn't believe Epstein died by suicide in prison. Honestly, why are we listening to I'm sorry, she's a heinous bitch. Why are we listening to her? Will it appease the MAGA folks? And what do you make of the timing? The DOJ also gave Congress thousands of Epstein documents, though Democrats are pointing out the majority of these documents were already public. They're trying to sort of slow roll the thing. A posthumous and, quote, unsparing memoir by Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide in April, is coming out in this fall. And also some of the victims are now and fucking had it with this, again, HB, heinous bitch.
Yeah. No need to apologize for saying heinous bitch. We can say that again now. Is what I heard after the election, that those words are allowed again. So
okay, good. I can say whatever I want about her. So anyway, I'm hoping Elizabeth Holmes like smacks her a little bit in this. They're in the same prison, I guess. Talk a little bit about this and where it's going. I still think it's got a lot of legs, this story. I don't know. I feel like it does.
I do laugh at hearing her call Trump, he was a gentleman in every respect. Gentleman. Like even Trump's friends don't think he's a gentleman. Like even Trump wouldn't describe himself as a gentleman, I don't think.
Right, exactly.
And it's so, fucking preposterous. No, she's awful. It's like important to just say that and she was involved in the sex crimes. Like
that's correct.
I've seen some of these reports, like she was there in the room when it was actually happening. So
she was participating in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was bullying, intimidating these women. They were in a quasi sex slavery with him, like essentially saying where she was, saying, you're not going to get, there would be financial pressure she'd put over them or access or threats. So, and she is as bad as they get, and a liar and totally unreliable. In all these cases, her only effort here is to get a pardon. I don't think anything really comes out of this. I think it's. It maybe should be used against Trump politically. The fact that she's been sent to a club fed as the only sex offender in the entire prison system in such a nice prison with Elizabeth Holmes, and so I think there's maybe some political juice there, not a ton, but there's something. I think that to me, the potential story here is that there is an actual traditional cover up, right? Like a lot of Trump's other behavior is like is sui generis. Like, it's just Trump. Like, he's doing stuff that hasn't really happened before. It's different. People like his crypto scheme. It's like, what? Like, there's not a history of this type of scandal, for folks to like, connect to. That's not the case here. Like, this is just a straight cover up that many other politicians have done. Like, they have a list of all the times Trump has mentioned these files. They've admitted it. They said there's a Microsoft share file with the FBI agents that went through and marked his name. So this exists somewhere, a file where Trump is in there, and they don't want to release it. And they're not going to. They're going to cover it up to protect the boss. Like, that's just a straight cover-up story. And I think that I asked Hakeem Jeffries about this when he was on the pod the other week, and I was like, so will you have a special committee on this if you get back into the leadership? And he kind of said yes, like he wouldn't commit to a special committee, but he said we will and be investigating this. And I think they can then just do a straight old school cover-up investigation. They can subpoena the FBI agents that were involved in this, what Bondi did, what she briefed Trump on, and who knows where that could lead, right? And so, the example I always use of this is all those Benghazi oversight hearings. In this weird, convoluted way, the Benghazi hearing led to the Hillary email server. So you don't exactly know what will come from oversight. Right. And so I think if the Democrats are willing to actually do it, if they win in the midterms, and then if they're actually to do it, like, this is a story that we'll be talking about in August of 2027.
Yeah, they're trying to push it down, and they didn't push down very easily. I don't think this guy continues to resurface, Epstein. Yeah. He's like the corpse that wouldn't be buried, essentially. And he keeps showing up in some fashion. I think the Ghislaine Maxwell, I know a lot of them are saying Trump is clean, like Jim Jordan, who's good at defending pedophiles and covering up for them, would say he's not clean by any stretch of the imagination, like, at all, because this lady says it. Not so. I just one photograph, another accuser. That's all it's going to take to really revive this, because it really does animate the right in ways that it didn't animate the left, by the way. It doesn't animate liberals, this story.
Yeah, and I think that was because the right got animated by it. The pretense was kind of like this concern about child sex trafficking. And there are people on the right who are genuinely concerned about child predation. But I think that why it sort of like, tickled their the lizard part of their brain was the death side. It was like the conspiracy side of it. It's like, oh, was there a deep state effort to protect whoever, the Clintons, you name it, like whoever, and it was, and that like plot side of it is what like elevated the story from what would have been a very like serious, no doubt, like real story with like real victims and all that, to something that like had this life of its own on the right. And I think that like for that same reason now, like there's a not really a conspiracy, but a cover-up that I think will animate the left that kind of gets lopped onto the more straightforward story about what they were doing to these young girls.
That's a really good point. That will be the thing. There are attempts at slow rolling it, and they still fight among each other, with Laura Loomer still calling Pam Bondi Blondie, etc. I suspect this is still going to keep going with this guy. Okay, Tim, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, Trump makes a deal with Intel.
Support for Pivot comes from Groons. If you've ever done a deep internet dive trying to discover different nutrition solutions, you've likely had the thought, surely there's a way to improve my skin, gut health, immunity, brain fog without offending my taste buds. Well, there is. It's called Groons. Groons are a convenient, comprehensive formula packed into a daily snack pack of gummies. It's not a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some for a fraction of the price. In a Groons daily snack pack, you get more than 20 vitamins and minerals, 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, plus more than 60 ingredients. They include nutrient-dense and whole foods, all of which will help you out in different ways. For example, Groons has 6 times the gut health ingredients compared to the leading greens powders. It contains biotin and niacinamide, which helps with thicker hair, nails, and skin health. They also contain mushrooms, which can help with brain function. And of course, you're probably familiar with vitamin C and how great it's for your immune system. On top of it all, Groons are vegan and free of dairy, nuts, and gluten. Get up to 52% off when you go to Groons.co and use the code PIVOT. That's GRUNS.co using the code PIVOT for 52% off.
Tim, we're back. The U.S. government is taking a 10% stake in Intel, with Trump calling it a, quote, great deal for America and a great deal for Intel. Under the agreement, $8.9 billion in unpaid CHIP Act grants will be converted into equity, making the government Intel's largest shareholder, but without board seats or governance rights. It's a turnaround from a few weeks ago when Trump was calling for Intel CEO to resign over ties to China. Intel move also comes on the heels of NVIDIA and AMD agreeing to hand over 15% of their China chip sale revenues to the government. Not clear whether they should be selling chips to China. There's also that, quote, golden share in U.S. steel. Senator Rand Paul called the Intel deal a step towards socialism. I, oddly enough, agreed with Senator Rand Paul. Industrial policy is not my favorite thing. Even the Washington Post and also the Wall Street Journal. But the Washington Post editorial board came out against this, saying the United States should not be trying to beat China by becoming China. AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders wish they could have this much control over companies, right? And Mark
Bernie
Cuban's
endorsed it, actually.
Yeah, of course. Mark Cuban said it's just a wealth tax in a different way, right? They're taking money. As part of it, I thought the government should have not done the giveaways to car companies or banks. I thought they should have taken a piece of Tesla and then sold it back and made money on it for the U.S. There's nothing wrong with it, but industrial policy in general is always a bad idea in a capitalist and vibrant economy. Thoughts about this and how it shakes out?
I'm curious to your thoughts on the tech side. I'll just give, because this is also a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but my political, and obviously there is the cheap but true political observation of the, MAGA socialism. And it's okay if Trump does it, we're going to panic about the 5 city-run grocery stores in New York, but we're going to let the government take over a 10% stake in a major company. There's the obvious hypocrisy on its face there. It's kind of funny. I think back to my heyday as a Republican when back 10, 15 years ago, there was this big controversy on the right over the Exim Bank. It's like a federal bank providing loans that was, government picking winners and losers and crony capitalism. And here we are, literally taking a stake in the company now. So, I think that is outrageous. The thing that worries me about it more than the substance of what's happening with Intel is it is another lever for him to use power to bully kind of who knows, right? Other people, right? And so whether that be Intel customers, competitors, right now, so it's well, we aren't going to take a stake. We're not going to have a governing responsibility in the company. But the government now still has an interest in this doing well. And Trump does. Trump has an emotional interest. He's posting about how the stock's up and how that's good and how the sign that's good. And so the downstream effects of that is something that is not all the way to China, but has some of that flavor where the government can start to intimidate certain other
and
companies
decide which are the national winners, right? But except you don't want the government in your business, essentially. And one of the issues is Intel's been suffering for years and years, lack of innovation, bad management, et cetera, for a very long time. It used to be the dominant chip maker, and then just just fell by the wayside. So there is an argument made for helping U.S. companies in the chip area, largely for national security.
Well, there was the CHIPS Act that was going to do that.
Yes, exactly. But the issue is it's not going to make them more innovative by having the government investment. It's just going to prop them up, right? And the problems with Intel run a lot deeper, that maybe they should go out of business. Maybe they should restructure. Maybe we shouldn't have the government deciding to keep them on life support, right? And it's not life support, but it's been sucking for many CEOs for a long time. And so, the natural thing is let it die and then something else comes up. The problem is our chip manufacturers are weaker and they're stronger in Taiwan and in China and elsewhere. And so just the fact that governments makes choices like this, what they should do is provide research money for all kinds of things. They should provide encouragement and innovative grants to help people start businesses of all kinds. Those are fine by me. And I think government has
I'm fine with manufacturing money, right? We want to make sure that they have, loan guarantees to build plants. So, if there's a reason interest rates are high right now. So it's in the national interest that we're building chip plants. The companies don't want to take the risks. The government backstops that. It's not my ideal free market system, but that's a defensible thing for the government to want to do. On this particular market.
But it's just a hop, skip, and jump to other markets, right? Like, let's own this, let's own that. And,
well, they said that Kevin Hassett is on CNBC this morning saying now we might start to take chips and stakes in other companies. And again, this is the thing where this is the bullying part. This is the authoritarian part where it's like, oh, if you're another company that took money from the CHIPS Act or from the IRA, maybe those were good decisions, maybe they're bad decisions. I think that there was probably a bunch of wasted money in both of those bills, by the way. But like the companies then at that point that made that decision should not now be worried that, oh, I can't do anything, say anything that might upset Trump. I can't go on TV and have grandpa watching his stories see that I'm critical of some policy, or else they might try to take over a stake in the company.
Yeah, it's very meddlesome in a way that's not anti-capitalist. I can see them in their room. I can see this, especially that dumbass Howard Lutnick. Like, we should have gotten a piece of Tesla. We should have gotten a piece of this. But they're bad business. No, Howard Lutnick is not a bad business person. Trump is arguably.
Are you sure he's not a bad business person? He seems very stupid.
Listen, he was sort of the discount guy on Wall Street. When you talk to Wall Street people, he's like, he built a big business, but what an idiot. I think that's usually but it was like a business nobody wanted. They were like, oh, that guy's business. Like, sort of like Crazy Eddie. Like, remember Crazy Eddie a long time ago? It was, of course it went bankrupt, that business. I think people don't love Howard Lutnick on Wall Street. They don't have much respect for him. That said, Trump he actually has built a business that has lasted. And Trump, of course, has run this is the idea of real estate dealers, real estate people running the government. Like, what can I get? What can I get? Like, what's the vig? And so it feels mobstery. It feels like, corrupt. It feels meddlesome. And it creates, the fact that Tim Cook has to give a gold statue to Trump is a bad thing. Even if he's doing it for shareholders, it means we live in a banana republic. That's what it means.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, I laugh at like how those guys are all like, and I shared some of the critiques of woke identity politics and big, in corporate America. But it was funny that it was like Trump, or Cook rather, kind of gave him like a woke right statue. Like it felt important for him to say in the presentation, it's like, this was made by this was made by a MAGA Republican veteran.
Yeah.
And it was, you can imagine the inverse where Tim Cook comes into Kamala and is like, here's a statue made by an indigenous bisexual, bisexual. Like we felt like we needed to do that. Like they felt like he had to do the whole identity right politics stuff too. The whole thing was very gross.
Unnatural acts. They're letting people who should be running their companies do unnatural acts. And it is bad for shareholders in the end. It's not, even if they're doing it to help shareholders so they don't get a bigger tariff, it's an unnatural act, Tim. Stop doing unnatural acts.
Can I ask you one nationalization thing? Because, I'm a passionate capitalist, but
me too.
There's been one issue kind of in this realm that has tickled my socialist pickle, which was the idea that maybe we need to nationalize SpaceX. I was because that's sort of related to this. That's like a kind of a different conversation where that is in the national security interest. No.
Yeah, maybe
no
for
interest
some.
in that?
They should be working hand in glove. I mean, I think the issue is NASA sort of got out of control in terms of bureaucratic and not innovative. The only thing is, when you're a government agency, you can't make mistakes the way SpaceX can. Right. And the minute you nationalize it, it can't blow up rockets. And as much as it seems like a failure to blow up rockets, the way you get to places or get to better innovation is by taking risks. And if you're a government agency, you cannot take risks by the definition of a government agency. So I see that they have to be working very closely with. This is the kind of close relationship.
It's not really a free market, though. You can't have unlimited companies in space. It's kind of like how NBA team ownership is not a real free market. Like, right?
Yeah. I just don't. I feel like they have brought the cost down because they're not a government.
Yeah.
There's no
they've
interest
done well,
in the government.
no doubt. But I don't know.
There's no interest in the government to making things cheaper.
Yeah,
that's what,
crazy Elon having that much control over the
he does. That's one of the worries. Of course, I
worry.
suspect that's what they're worried about. Is it's like a bond villain essentially running critical infrastructure. Same thing with chips. We have to have a real chip policy, and this ain't it. Speaking of something that seems troubling, FBI agents raided the home and office of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton on Friday. The Trump critic is the subject of national security investigation and search of classified records. Vice President J.D. Vance says the raid definitely doesn't have anything to do with Bolton's criticism of Trump, which means it does, or rather stems from a, quote, broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. The Wall Street Journal's against this. Everyone's against this. Like, I think what they're doing is what they thought was done to them. So they didn't like it done to them. Why are they doing it to others? Very retribution, revenge. She just threatened Chris Christie, I think, today or yesterday.
Yeah, starting to
Thoughts?
jail Chris Christie too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal editorial board has kind of cracked me up since they've been very Trump friendly. They talked about how one of the concerns of him coming back was that he'd run vendettas, and they wrote, "quote It's turning out to be worse than we imagined." It's like, oh, you don't say. Not me. Actually, it's going quite bright, just about exactly how we told you it was going to go. Not any worse. The Bolton thing, I just think it's important to say this because it's obviously preposterous that this is not a political attack. But if you just replace John Bolton with Mark Meadows or Corey, imagine it was somebody from the Trump first term that wrote a book who is still in good graces with Trump, and the accusation is that there were classified materials in that book that was written 5 years ago. There's no imaginable world in which the FBI is raiding the home of a Trump 1.0 cabinet member who is still an ally, right? Nobody could imagine it. If there were a legitimate concern that he had some classified materials they shouldn't have, there's a process for this sort of thing. FBI calls, DOJ's lawyers call their lawyers, you set up a meeting, right? So this was purely to either hassle or intimidate.
Overreach, right? That's just the thing that Trump complained about. And I think it brings up what Trump did. Again, you did it.
The Trump example, it's important to just explain the differences. In the Mar-a-Lago raid, which I would listen to the idea that maybe that could have been handled in a less aggressive way, but it's not comparable to the Bolton situation. The Mar-a-Lago raid, the archivist or whatever, said that Trump brought some materials that are the property of the United States that he shouldn't have. They asked for a meeting, denied. Then they provided a list of what the materials were. Trump lied and said that it wasn't there. They tried to move some of the materials to a different place. Right? So Trump was obstructing the effort to do this in the good faith way that this is generally done. And that's why the raid happened. That was not the case with John Bolton. They just showed up at his house, I think because the statute of limitations, I suspect, is running out on the stuff from the first term, which would be 5 years now. And they did so just to intimidate him. Pam Bondi puts out a tweet about it. I don't have it in front of me, but something like, our national security, comes first. It's nobody thinks that America's security was at threat because of whatever John Bolton has in his house. And I think that it ties kind of to the intel thing. The thing that worries me about everything is eventually, and ties to the Bill Maher thing at the top, slowly but surely, people just decide it's not worth the hassle, right? You get into authoritarianism not through violent coup necessary, but by slow burn towards everyone deciding, I'm going to go bring him a trophy to keep him happy. I'm not going to say anything wrong because I don't want the FBI to come after me. And, eventually you consolidate power. And that's closer to what you've seen in Hungary and other places.
Yeah, well-known centers of innovation.
Yeah,
Hungary,
exactly.
Turkey.
Economy's really, really thriving in Hungary and Turkey. We want the Turkey model for our country.
The Turkey model. Anyway, we'll see what happens with this. I suspect it'll peter out. They have such little follow-through, but they do cause damage. What they do, they're like toddlers. They come in, cause damage, and little follow-through. All right, Tim, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, Cracker Barrel makes an enemy of the right.
Support for the show comes from Framer. Kids today, they never understand what we went through back in the day. Building a website, for instance, used to be a lot of time and a lot of money, so you only did it if you could afford the overhead and really needed it. Nowadays, there are incredible tools like Framer that can build the website of your dreams fast, no coding required. Framer is a design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a product-ready site in minutes. That means you have the freedom to build a website that is professional, polished, and uniquely yours, no code and no compromises. Built-in AI will handle the heavy lifting by generating starter layouts and then coding behind the scenes. You'll be able to A/B test your design, set up funnels, see exactly where people click, all from one place. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use the code PIVOT to get your first month of Pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code PIVOT. Framer.com, promo code PIVOT. Rules and restrictions apply.
Tim, we're back with more news. Please make sure you're seated for this next emotional topic, Cracker Barrel's logo change. The chain has removed the barrel and the man from its logo, and conservatives are horrified. Change is hard, conservatives. Cracker Barrel stock was down 12% in the last 5 days at the time of taping. That's because it's mostly like, I haven't been in a Cracker Barrel because they're so anti-gay, right? That's what I remember.
No, they did obviously you don't remember their effort to appeal to you, Kara. A couple of years ago, they did a rainbow rocking chair during Pride Month a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. This is fucking ridiculous. This is like, it's just a logo change. And the old man seems like old. Like, they want young people to come. That's my presumption, is they've got too many fucking old people in the place, and they need a new demo. It makes sense from, again, meddling in the business. Like, if they want to get rid of the old fucking man, they should get rid of the old man. And the fact that they're all horrified, like, they're so censorious, the right, when they accuse others of being censorious. And, they'll either live or die by the stock going down, and maybe they'll put the man back or whatever. But it's just, I don't care.
I've got to take a contrary view to you on this one. Are you ready to fight over Cracker Barrel?
Yeah. Okay.
The new logo is awful.
When's the last time you went?
I haven't been to Cracker Barrel in years.
It's an ugly logo. Correct.
Yeah. I haven't been in years. We just, every once in a while go, I think, on the drive from DC to the beach. There's a Cracker Barrel somewhere. But that was many years ago now. So I haven't been in a while. So I don't actually have any personal stake or care about this. But I do, just as an objective observer of the world, the new logo is awful. The picture that they put out of the new inside of the Cracker Barrel, which is more minimalist or whatever, is also awful. And it is part of a broader corporate trend where every logo has to be minimalist now, and every store needs to have clean lines. And we need diversity of views. You need diversity of experiences. Like, the human spirit, yearns for different types of, we don't all want Scandinavian clean lines. So some places call for Scandinavian.
No, but I think they probably realize most of their clients are about to die, right? I think
You think new people are going to come in, though, because they want to make it look more like Applebee's? I don't think that, like, the millennials I know are like, I'm excited now that they're changing it from the old man, Southern view to a more of a modern Applebee's aesthetic.
I think at some point you have to change. But again, it's up to the company if they want to do this, and they'll either live or die by it, right? That's my whole thing.
I agree with that.
I suspect they're looking at the numbers and they're like, all the old people, we don't have any young. They probably know exactly who's coming into their restaurants. And young people are not coming into the Cracker Barrel. They're just not. And, the name itself would probably be changed, Cracker Barrel. Like, what is a Cracker Barrel? Honky Barrel. I kind of like what they're doing at Hooters. They're going, you'd be surprised.
What are they doing at Hooters? I know nothing about this.
They're going back to cheesy and booby and, like, wings. Like, and I'm vaguely offended by Hooters. I don't care. Like, if people want to go to those stupid places and they pay those people enough, I don't know what to say. I think it's gross, but whatever, people, if you want to go to, that, and you want to, by the way, all the Hooters waitresses, in my experience, have been fucking-tastic people. And they know the whole fucking deal with the guys leering their breasts, which is like they're toddlers looking at them. But there's a great story of a gay guy, who was it, who talked about going to Hooters.
His Twitter
with his
name
dad.
is Peter Twinklage.
Yeah, great story of going to Hooters, and the Hooter waitress helping this guy out. And she knew he was gay, right? Yeah. The father didn't. Of course, the father did, because that's why he dragged his poor sorry ass there. But, I kind of like that they're going back to it, because I thought Hooters just be Hooters. And if they do a nice job of it and the wings are good, I'm fine with it. I just think this is a company, much like, there's probably a bunch of them, facing real secular change in their usage. So they must have studied this. And the people that are being noisy are all
sometimes you can overstudy stuff. It's like, I feel this way about political ads, where it's like, I'll be in a meeting where a super PAC will be like, we decided to do this ad because we tested it. And I'm like, most of these tests are so dumb. It's people that are like playing video games or something, and then they show the ad during the commercial break, and then you have to say whether you like it or not. And it's like, people don't know themselves. We're trusting this. Like, they're just trying to get through the ad. A lot of these corporate testing things is a lot of hooey fooey. Can I give you one admission, since you've admitted the Hooters? Come clean on your support for original Hooters. The Cracker Barrel thing for me is tied to the new Oval Office design. And I like the new Oval Office design, just like I like the old Cracker Barrel, because I think more is more. Pro Hooters, pro Liberace Oval Office, pro original Cracker Barrel. That's where I'm landing.
Who's not pro Liberace? Come on.
Well, the Oval Office has a Liberace aesthetic now, I think.
Oh, it does.
Which I like.
But it's okay with.
As a gay man.
I don't. I think I didn't like, when I saw the comparison, I was like, oh, look how awful. I'm like, the first one was kind of dull.
Was
like
drab.
The Biden one.
Yeah.
Drab, right? And I listen, Showgirls is about to have its 50th anniversary or whatever, and I'm up for anything like that. I like excess. I like all kinds of stuff like that. But it's too much over here. Now there's way too much fucking gold. Like gold is best. Like if you ever saw that Apple thing. So I think it's too much. There should be pomp and circumstance, but there's way too much of that.
It's a little Uda and Kusei. It's a little much. It wouldn't be my preferred aesthetic, but it is definitely an upgrade when you look at the comparisons.
What else would you put in there? What would your Oval Office look like?
That's not really in the cards, I don't think.
I know, but
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, kind of like the bird cage. I don't know. I don't know what it would be.
Gay.
Yeah, well, gay. Yeah, it'd combine all of my conflicting interests. You know, we might have a Reagan portrait, but also a lot of gay stuff. They would live in conflict together. Maybe just Nancy.
You know who I'd have design it? You know Ken Falk? He's a San Francisco designer.
My husband loves Ken Falk.
Yeah, everything he does is just a little louche, but I love it. Like, you know, it's just a little bit too much velvet and stuff like that. There's an occasional dead animal on the wall. I kind of love it. I love it. Looks.
I like wallpaper.
I also like the Nancy Meyers aesthetic. That is kind of a nice one. Do you know the director? Those houses that Diane Keaton always lives in. Those are nice. Maybe dull.
They're a little.
Dull.
I don't know. That's not really for me. I'm trying to. That might be triggered. It might be this little suburban. I'm kind of triggered by my suburban upbringing. I don't want anything like the '90s suburban, like Tuscan aesthetic. Anything like that is that I have a natural like physical revulsion to. So.
Yeah, I think I would do more funny stuff, more color. Anyway, I think they should have kept the barrel, gotten rid of the old man. The barrel needs to be there, and there should be crackers.
Should be there.
And crackers. All right, last thing. Elon Musk's ex has agreed to a tentative settlement to settle a lawsuit filed by former Twitter employees who say they're owed $500 million in severance. Musk fired around 6,000 employees after acquiring Twitter, and of course, he didn't pay them. In other Musk news, he also asked Mark Zuckerberg to help him finance a $97 billion takeover of OpenAI in early 2025, according to court filings. In a case between Musk and OpenAI, obviously didn't happen. Oh, thank God. But Mark,
thank God, I guess. Isn't this kind of like an Iran-Iraq war situation? Who are you rooting for in Altman versus Musk versus Zuckerberg?
The bullets is what Scott always says. You're rooting for the bullets. You know, I know a little bit about this payment, and I'll just say really briefly, I've met with a lot of the people who they owe money to. And look, if you want to fire people, Elon, that's fine. That's your business. But pay them what they're owed. That's it. It makes you like an asshole not to pay them their severance. Even if you don't like what they did before, that was the agreement they were taking over. As to his OpenAI thing, just stop. You know, Sam Altman is not interested in you. So stop bothering that company. You walked yourself out of there like an idiot when you were there from the beginning because of your ego and your need for control. You don't have it. Just try to make a good company on your own. That's my feeling about that. Any thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts on the Twitter filings, so I agree with everything you said. While we're admitting to bad opinions that we have about aesthetics, I also kind of like the Zuckerberg fuckboy rebrand. I think that's been good for him, so I support that.
Is he a fuckboy?
Kind of. I mean, the gold chain and the what are the kids calling it? The lettuce hair.
Yeah. Okay. Would you go out with him? Do you think he's attractive?
Not really for me. No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I guess I had to pick between him and I probably originally would have said Sam Altman, but I don't know. Sam's recent interviews are pretty creepy. Like he's starting to move into the uncanny valley for me a little bit.
Oh, interesting. How so? Tell me. Explain.
I don't know. I like the like I get him in my TikTok a lot. I guess kind of how you're consuming me. Like he does all these podcast interviews where he's talking about what we want for the future of OpenAI. Like, did you see his Theo Vaughn interview? And his projections about what is coming, and how people are just going to have to get used to a world where they're like robot humans walking around on the street everywhere, and where like a lot of people's real friends are computer friends, and where he's just the whole thing is getting a little creepy for me, and he seems to kind of be leaning into that, like that he and I just think I'm misaligned with him for what I would like to see an AI future to look like.
It's just one man's opinion, for one.
Well, it's an important man's opinion, kind of.
Yeah, but there's been OpenAIs have come and gone. Like, I don't mean to be rude, but like, remember Yahoo was huge and then it wasn't. Like these things, and they are definitely in a more precarious position. They're either Netscape or they're Google, right? That said, Google didn't run the show on everything eventually, and even they struggled at various times. I feel like, look, he's sort of styling himself like Steve Jobs, so he's trying to say important, controversial things. And so nobody is Steve Jobs, but everyone's trying to grab that mantle, and there will be not another one like that. And so that's what you're hearing.
What's
right?
your alarm level and all that stuff on these guys, these egomaniacs deciding what our AI future is going to look like?
We've already seen what happened. So we're going to see this. I think the government, in this case, needs to be much more involved with guidance, guardrails, and regulations, as you know. I don't like a small group of people, not diverse in any way, making decisions for the rest of us. That's all. Just like I didn't, as much as I like Train Daddy on The Gilded Age, they decided where the roads went. They decided where the things went. And our whole country has to live in the reality they create. And I'm not so pleased with that either, although I like Train Daddy quite a bit, oddly enough.
I don't have any takes on Train Daddy, but I'll learn about it.
You need to watch The Gilded Age because all the gays love Train Daddy, just so you know.
Okay.
He's really great. Speaking of which, it cracks me up with Gavin Newsom every time that Jesse Waters calls him daddy. He's like, I'm not interested. His use of like gay taunts is so, I'm not, everyone's like, aren't you offended? I'm like, no, I love them. I don't know about how you feel. I like a gay taunt.
I like a gay taunt too. Sometimes the only time I get offended on this thing is sometimes I feel like, and maybe it's just because as a gay former Republican, I get a lot of incoming on this. Sometimes I feel like the liberals in my life are like way too excited to make like gay slurs about Lindsey Graham and like the MAGA gays. And I like a little joke about Lady G. I'm fine with that. But sometimes it's like the tone where I kind of feel like you've just had this pent up desire to make homophobic jokes, and now you feel like you can because Lindsey Graham is the target, and it comes out a little too enthusiastic for my taste, I guess.
I would agree. I'm 100% on your time. I'm talking about more like when they actively go out of their way to to slap back at it. But I agree with you. I just look, whatever journey Lindsey Graham is on, it's his journey. It is hypocritical, obviously. But when has that not happened? Do you remember during the Reagan administration? There was crawling with gays. They were crawling with gays, and they were doing anti-gay things. In that case, I think it's perfectly okay. But the stakes were, with AIDS were so massive at the time. It seemed like they are massive now too. Their attacks on gay marriage right now are really quite.
Are you worried about that? I don't know. I keep telling people I think that the trans, if I am acutely worried if I'm transgender, if I'm a migrant, and I think those are very acute crises right now, and we should really focus on them. The gay marriage thing, I just would be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
I think that there are people that are very intent on still angry about gay marriage, and they just sit there and they seethe and they work to overturn it.
That's right. I just think it's a losing fight for them. The abortion thing, I think a lot on the left thought the abortion thing would be a losing fight for them, and they compare the two issues and they kind of conflate them, and I think for a variety of reasons, like gay marriage is like a 70% issue in the country, and I think it would be a pretty big.
Well, it hasn't stopped them on a lot of things, right?
That's
Gun
true.
control. I think there is a group of dedicated anti-gay people that have never. I've always thought they've never gone away, and everyone's like, "Now we won." I'm like, "Have we?" I think you should be vigilant with these people. I think they would very much like to do a lot of things to women and gay people that are really disturbing, and so and set them back, and they articulate it now, and you see it even the things Vance pushes.
Yeah. But it's noteworthy the change in how unbridled they are now. Like they feel totally now unshackled to say their real feelings about gay people. Like there was a period of time where I think people were like, there'll be backlash against me, or this isn't. Yeah. And you're not seeing that anymore. And I think that's revealing. In some way, I think it's bad. I worry about it for younger LGBT people. But I also, in some ways, I think it's nice for it to be revealing that we can see the score a little bit.
See, I've always thought they were like this. I never thought they were friendly to us for a minute. And by the way, they are committed to overturning marriage, some of those people. And guess what? We're committed not to. So that's the part that I think you'll see how that's going to go trying to take my marriage away from me. All right, Tim, one more quick break. We'll be back for wins and fails. Okay, Tim, let's hear some wins and fails. I will go first. I think it's sort of a fail. This Trump's cankle thing. I know people are like, it's really odd. I have to say, Alex Jones is concerned about Trump's health. He warned last week at the current trajectory, Trump is going to have some sort of collapse within the next 12 months. Thank you, Dr. Jones. You terrible, heinous, speaking of heinous bitches. Trump's hands are also looking questionable with all those odd smears of makeup. You think he could do better as the president. He had a weird walking thing. The age is, as I have said, the cognitive decline and the age decline is real. And let me tell you, he's a lively old man. That's for sure. Like he's the guy in the nursing home that's just real lively, but still going to keel over at any moment. It could keel over at any moment. I think I'm not sure why they aren't controlling this, especially with the makeup and everything else, largely because he's probably very vain and everything else. But he's obviously aged rather significantly in so many ways, and I think it's taking its toll on him. It feels like he's rotting. It feels like when Voldemort was starting to rot, like when he wasn't getting enough dead people.
We can't see his real face is something that's true now. Like the leader will not show us what he really looks like because it's he's so fragile now.
He looks like he was on Ozempic, but now he looks fat again. I'm like, something's going on with his health. I don't think that's a win or a fail. I just feel like
just wanted to mention it.
I just want to mention it because I think people are like, oh, let's not mention it. I'm like, no, he looks, if we're going to, we should have mentioned more things about Biden, and Scott and I did and gotten a lot of crap. He looks, there's something going on.
Cankles are noteworthy. And if the cankles are as wide as Alex Jones's neck, you know that there's something concerning there.
Remember when they attacked Hillary Clinton's cankles? No, just saying.
I don't recall
that.
Good
for the
I hope that wasn't me.
For the gander. No, it wasn't you. It's good for the goose. And my win is the fantastic, once again, we have the new version of Wicked coming, and it's only in 3 months. And I think their social media campaign is fantastic. And they've done a great job. I love John Chu. He's going to be here in D.C. next week. I'm going to see him, hopefully. I'm very excited about that movie, and I'm not going to hide it. I love it, and I love the actors in it, and I think they're doing a spectacular marketing job on it. And I just love to watch people use social media in a really positive way, and I like that. And it gives me pleasure. Your win and fail?
All right. Well, I wasn't planning this one, but if we're doing, musical shout outs, I should win I have to give my Oasis guys a win. I mean, they reunited. Nobody said they could do it. They're coming to America now this week. They'll be back. Yeah. Nobody ever thought they'd be back.
Explain why this is a big deal.
It was the brothers, Noel and Liam Gallagher. They were brothers. They were very C word in the British sense. I still won't say that in your presence, Kara, but like kind of Englishmen who drank a lot and fought together. And obviously folks will know Wonderwall or Champagne Supernova, some of their famous songs. And so they've been broken up for 16 years. They spent most of the decade half shit-talking each other in the press. And the idea was like they never would get back together. They're back together. I went to one of their shows in Manchester. And in their reunion shows, and now they're now.
Was it good? Are they good? Or are they sad?
It was biblical. It was unbelievable.
Oh,
it was
really?
amazing. He sounds amazing. I think he must have quit smoking or got a vocal coach. Because I sometimes you'll go to see the aging rock stars. Mm-hmm. I went to see Pearl Jam at Jazz Fest, and it's like, you can just tell sometimes.
The last Madonna concert. That's how I felt.
It was rough. Not the case with Liam. He sounds amazing. They sound amazing. Everyone was so excited because people who are into Oasis are really into it. Like the crowd around me knew every word. It was wonderful. So that was a win.
Good. Great.
The one that I'd planned on doing was on a more serious level. I was going to give Putin a win in their little summit in Alaska.
Go for it.
No, I don't really have much that. It's just obvious now. When it had happened, there was like. I think even some people were like, well, maybe Trump will get maybe this thing will finally start to recede and Putin will, get some deal out of it. Trump will, give him some crypto or, some parts of Ukraine and Trump. And obviously at this point, he was just totally used by Putin in a way that's like really embarrassing at this point, like the red carpet rollout. My fail is to as somebody who prefers the centrist Democrats, shout out to my girl, Jerusalem Dempster, The Argument, a new kind of center-left Democratic outlet. But just my advice to them is their treatment of Zoran is so bad. It's such a fail. I do not understand what they're doing. They're limiting their own power in the future of the party. People are very excited about Zoran. I've got issues with some of his policies. I had him on the pod and we argued about a couple of various things. And so you don't have to full-throatedly say you endorse everything, but there's so much enthusiasm for him. And you're going to get overthrown. If you're Hakeem or Chuck Schumer or any of these guys that aren't people are going to get pissed and overthrow you if you do not at least listen when
I would. The scavenger hunt was brilliant. Again, he's very canny in a really interesting community. Someone was like, I went and I met a dozen people Like, that was cool. Like, he really is appealing. I agree. I went out to dinner. I think I said that was the senator. I'm not going to say who it is, who was like belly aching about him. I'm like, why don't you go watch what he's fucking doing before you did it?
You also have no other choice. Who are you going to back? Eric Adams? Like what? Andrew Cuomo, like a sex pest who had to resign in disgrace, who's already gotten beaten by your own voters. The whole thing is really frustrating.
Voters said this, and therefore let's go with the vote. If young people, you complain and complain and complain about young people's engagement, they're engaged, you complain about that. Like, they really are a bunch of wimpuses. And they could say, I don't agree with him on this, but I kind of think he's cool. That kind of thing.
Or he's doing this thing well, or I'm happy. Or how about even simply, I'm happy to endorse him just because the other options are so awful. That's okay. Like, like, there are a lot of options besides, you know, just doing the hemming and hawing. And
one well-known person we both know was saying, well, I wasn't asked to endorse. Why are people giving me a hard time for not endorsing? I'm like, you don't need to be asked. Just say what a cool, interesting politician he is. We don't agree on everything, but pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions about business, tech, or whatever's on your mind. Go to nymag.com/pivot to submit a question for the show, or call 855-51-PIVOT. Elsewhere this week on with Kara Swisher, I talked with graphic novelist Alison Bechdel and editorial cartoonist Ann Telness. Let's listen to a clip of Ann explaining how she draws Trump.
My readers are the ones that always point out to me, because I never notice I'm changing every time. They're like, okay, he's starting to look like a big mouth bass now. And I'm like, okay, I can go with that. Or, they say he's a pig. And I'm like, well, I like pigs. Don't tell me that, So, like I said, it's just really, I try to find out, I'm trying to show you what I think the insides of that person is more than the outside.
Is there one particular body part that you think is besides the tie?
Little hands.
Tiny hands.
They were great. It's really, we don't pay enough. Cartoonists are doing God's work at this point. And Anne had left the Washington Post. Allison, of course, is such a talented cartoonist. She has a new book called Spent. Really interesting conversation about the visualization of our politics that goes way back in our history. Thomas Nast and Herb Block and others. Okay, that's the show. Thanks for listening to Pivot, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back on Friday. Tim, thank you so much. You are also doing God's work. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kara. It was such a pleasure.
Interesting and canny, and I like that you have different takes, and I like that you like the gold Oval Office. That's what you'll be remembered for. You and I would go to a Liberace show. I love Liberace. So I also like Don Ho. I'm in that zone. All right, I'll read us out. Today's show was produced by Lara Naaman, Zoë Marcus, Taylor Griffin, and Kevin Oliver. Ernie Indradat engineered this episode. Jim Mackle edited this video. Special thanks to Kate Gallagher. Nishat Kurwa is Vox Media's executive producer of podcasts. Make sure to follow Pivot on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for listening to Pivot from New York Magazine and Vox Media. You can subscribe to the magazine at nymag.com/pod. We'll be back later this week for our last breakdown of all things tech and business before scot-free August ends. We've got a very big name, a very person who calls himself the most handsome governor in the country. We'll see what that means. You'll find out. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Kara. Say hey to Gavin.